Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to introduce our topic, tissues in multicellular organisms. On this first slide, you'll see the title, which highlights the focus of our discussion. Over the course of this presentation, we'll explore how different tissues work together to keep multicellular organisms alive and functioning. We'll look at the types of tissues, their roles, and how they fit into the bigger picture of biological systems. Let's get started. Today, we're going to explore the contents of our presentation, which is organized into several key topics. First, we'll look at the introduction to tissues, understanding what tissues are and why they are fundamental to both plants and animals. Then, we'll examine how tissues are classified into different types based on their structure and function. Moving forward, we'll discuss the concept of permanent tissue, which is crucial for the growth and support of plants once they have fully developed. We'll also cover meristematic tissue, which is responsible for plant growth and tissue formation. After that, we'll explore animal tissues, highlighting the different types that make up our bodies and their specific roles. Finally, we'll look at the utility of tissues, essentially, how tissues contribute to the overall functioning and survival of living organisms. This overview will help us see the bigger picture of how tissues are essential building blocks in both plants and animals, and how understanding their classification and functions is key to grasping biological processes. Let's begin our exploration with an introduction to tissues. Tissues are essentially groups of similar cells that work together to perform specific functions in the body. They are the building blocks that make up our organs and systems. Understanding tissues is crucial because they provide the foundation for how our body operates and maintains health. Throughout this presentation, we'll see how different types of tissues contribute to various bodily functions and how their structure relates to their role. Recognizing these connections helps us appreciate the complexity and elegance of our biological design. So, as we move forward, keep in mind that tissues are the key to understanding how the human body functions as a whole. Today, we're going to explore the fascinating world of tissues. You see, multicellular organisms like us are made up of millions of individual cells. Each of these cells specializes in a particular function, demonstrating what we call division of labor. This means that different cells perform different tasks efficiently, which is essential for the organism's survival. Now, these specialized cells don't just float around independently. Instead, they group together based on their similar structure and origin. When cells with common features team up, we refer to this group as a tissue. Understanding tissues is crucial because they form the building blocks of our organs and systems. And when we study tissues, we call this field histology. It's all about examining how these cells are organized and how they work together to keep us functioning smoothly. So, in this presentation, as we move forward, keep in mind that tissues are fundamental in the structure and function of all living organisms. They truly are the foundation of biological complexity. Let's talk about the utility of tissues. Tissues play a crucial role in our daily lives, especially when it comes to hygiene and health. They are essential for personal cleanliness, whether you're sneezing, wiping your hands, or cleaning surfaces. The convenience and portability of tissues make them a go-to product in many situations. Beyond hygiene, tissues also help in maintaining comfort and preventing the spread of germs. As we see in the overall theme of this presentation, understanding the importance of tissues highlights how small everyday products can have a significant impact on our well-being and public health. Now, let's talk about the utility of tissues in multicellular organisms. Essentially, these organisms have millions of cells, and each group of similar cells is called a tissue. These tissues are specialized, meaning they perform specific functions very efficiently. For example, muscle cells contract and relax to bring about movement. Nerve cells, on the other hand, carry messages throughout the body. And in the case of blood, which is also considered a tissue, it plays a crucial role in transporting substances. In plants, we see similar specialization with tissues like xylem and phloem. Xylem conducts water from the roots to other parts of the plant, while phloem transports food. What this all highlights is the concept of division of labor within multicellular organisms. Different tissues work together, each focusing on its specific role, which helps the organism function smoothly and efficiently. This division of labor is a key aspect of how complex life systems operate effectively. Now, let's take a closer look at the classification of tissues. Tissues are the groups of similar cells that work together to perform specific functions. Understanding how tissues are classified helps us grasp how our body is organized and how it functions as a whole. Broadly, tissues are categorized into 4 main types: epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous tissue. Each of these types has unique characteristics and roles. Epithelial tissue, for example, forms the protective layers and linings of our body. Connective tissue supports and binds other tissues together, like in bones and blood. Muscle tissue is responsible for movement, whether it's voluntary movements like walking or involuntary ones like the heartbeat. Lastly, nervous tissue is the communication network of the body, transmitting signals to coordinate activities. Recognizing these categories is fundamental to understanding how complex biological systems operate seamlessly. Today, we're going to look at the classification of tissues, which is a fundamental concept in understanding how organisms are structured. Tissues are mainly classified into 2 broad categories: plant tissues and animal tissues. Plant tissues include various types like meristematic tissues, which are responsible for growth, and permanent tissues, which perform functions such as transport and support. These tissues are unique to plants and are crucial for their survival and development. On the other hand, animal tissues are organized differently and include groups like epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous tissues. Each type plays a specific role in maintaining the body's functions, from protection and support to communication and movement. Understanding these classifications helps us grasp how complex organisms are organized at a cellular level. It also connects to the overall theme of how structure relates to function in biology. Recognizing the differences and similarities between plant and animal tissues gives us insight into their specialized roles and adaptations. Let's talk about plant tissues now. Unlike animals, plants don't move around. They are stationary. Most of the tissues they have serve a supportive function, giving them the structural strength they need to stand tall and withstand various environmental forces. Interestingly, many of these supportive tissues are actually dead cells. This might sound surprising, but dead tissues can provide much better mechanical strength and require less maintenance compared to living tissues. Another important point is that some plant tissues are constantly dividing throughout the plant's life. These are localized in specific regions, like the tips of roots and shoots, which are called meristems. This ongoing cell division allows the plant to grow and develop new tissues as needed. All of these aspects highlight how plants are uniquely equipped with specialized tissues that support their stationary lifestyle and enable continuous growth. Today, we're going to look at the different types of plant tissues, starting with meristematic tissues. These are the tissues responsible for growth, and they contain actively dividing cells that help the plant increase in size and length. Think of them as the plant's growth zones, like the tips of roots and shoots. Next, we have permanent tissues. Once the cells in these tissues have matured and stopped dividing, they become permanent tissues. They perform various functions, such as providing support, transporting nutrients, or storing food. Understanding these 2 main types helps us see how plants grow and function throughout their life cycle. Meristematic tissues drive growth, while permanent tissues maintain the plant's structure and carry out essential activities. This connection ties into the overall theme of how plant structures develop and sustain life. Let's talk about meristematic tissue. This type of tissue is really fascinating because it's responsible for growth in plants. Essentially, meristematic tissues are made up of cells that are actively dividing, which means they are the plant's growth engines. You'll find these tissues mainly at the tips of roots and shoots, where the plant is elongating. One of the key points to remember is that these cells are undifferentiated, meaning they haven't specialized yet, so they have the potential to become different types of cells depending on the plant's needs. This ability to differentiate is crucial for the development of new tissues and organs in the plant. Connecting this to the overall theme of plant growth, meristematic tissue is what allows plants to grow taller, develop new leaves, or extend their roots. It's the foundation of continuous growth and development throughout a plant's life. Understanding these tissues helps us appreciate how plants adapt and thrive in their environments. Let's talk about meristematic tissue. These tissues are really the engines of growth in plants. They contain cells that have the amazing ability to divide and create new cells, which is essential for the plant's development. Think of them as the growth zones, found at the tips of roots and shoots, where new plant tissue is constantly being formed. This continuous cell division allows the plant to grow taller, expand in width, and even develop new organs. So, understanding meristematic tissues helps us grasp how plants grow and adapt over time, which ties directly into the bigger picture of plant development and survival. Let's take a closer look at the different types of meristematic tissues. First, we have the apical meristem. This tissue is located at the very tips of the stems and roots, and its main role is to increase the length of the plant. Essentially, it's responsible for primary growth, allowing the plant to grow taller and deeper. Next, we have the lateral meristem, also known as cambium. You'll find this tissue beneath the bark, and it's crucial for secondary growth. It's responsible for increasing the girth of the trunk, making the plant thicker over time. This is what gives mature trees their sturdy, thick stems. Finally, there's the intercalary meristem. This tissue is found at the internodes, which are the regions between two nodes or at the base of leaves. Its role is to promote growth in length between these nodes, helping the plant extend and develop new leaf bases and internodes. All these meristematic tissues work together to support the plant's growth in both length and girth, which ties into our overall theme of how plants develop and adapt over time. Let's talk about permanent tissue. These tissues are crucial because they provide structure and support to plants. Unlike meristematic tissues, which are responsible for growth, permanent tissues are more specialized and have a fixed shape and size. They can be classified into simple and complex permanent tissues. Simple permanent tissues include parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma, each serving different functions such as storage, support, and transport. Complex permanent tissues, like xylem and phloem, are involved in conducting water, minerals, and food throughout the plant. Understanding these tissues helps us appreciate how plants maintain their form and carry out essential functions efficiently. This ties into the overall theme of how plants are structured to survive and thrive in their environments. Permanent tissue refers to those tissues that originate from meristematic tissue once they have matured. These tissues have a definite shape, size, and function, which means they are specialized for specific roles in the plant. Some of these tissues can be dead, while others remain alive, depending on their function. A key point here is that they are made up of dead cells that have lost the ability to divide. This is important because it marks a transition from the meristematic, actively dividing cells to more permanent, specialized cells. The process by which cells develop from meristematic tissue and then take on a specific shape, size, and function is called differentiation. It's a fundamental concept because it explains how plants develop their various tissues and structures, contributing to their overall organization and function. Understanding how permanent tissues form and function helps us grasp how plants grow and adapt, which ties into the larger theme of plant development and tissue specialization. Now, let's take a closer look at the types of permanent tissues. We broadly categorize them into two groups: simple tissues and complex tissues. Simple tissues are made up of only one type of cell, which means they perform specific functions efficiently. On the other hand, complex tissues consist of more than one type of cell working together to carry out more specialized roles. Understanding these distinctions is key because it helps us appreciate how plants are structured and how their tissues work together to support growth and survival. This classification also ties into the overall theme of how plants have evolved different tissue types to adapt to their environments. Today, we're going to explore simple tissues, which are made up of the same type of cells working together. These tissues are fundamental because they perform specific functions efficiently. Simple tissues are mainly classified into two categories: supportive tissues and protective tissues. Supportive tissues, such as parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma, provide structural support and help maintain the form of the plant. Parenchyma cells are versatile, involved in storage and photosynthesis. Collenchyma offers flexible support, especially in growing parts. Sclerenchyma, on the other hand, is tough and provides strength and rigidity. On the other hand, we have protective tissues, which serve as the first line of defense for the plant. The epidermis forms the outer covering of young plants and helps prevent water loss, while cork replaces the epidermis in mature parts, offering additional protection and durability. Connecting this to our overall theme, understanding these simple tissues is crucial because they form the foundation of plant structure and function, enabling plants to grow, protect themselves, and adapt to their environment. Now, let's take a closer look at the cells of parenchyma tissues. These cells are actually alive, which is an important feature. They tend to be oval or elongated in shape and are loosely packed, leaving large intercellular spaces between them. This loose arrangement forms the basic packing of the tissue and allows for things like gas exchange and storage. You'll find these tissues throughout the entire plant body, making them quite vital. Moving on to their functions, parenchyma cells play several roles. They provide mechanical support to the plant, helping it maintain its structure. Some parenchyma cells contain chlorophyll, and these are called chlorenchyma. As the name suggests, chlorenchyma is responsible for photosynthesis, which is essential for the plant's energy production. Parenchyma also acts as a storage unit. The cells store food and nutrients in vacuoles, which helps the plant survive periods of scarcity. In aquatic plants, there's a special type of parenchyma called aerenchyma. These cells have large air cavities that give the plant buoyancy, allowing it to float more easily on water surfaces. This adaptation is crucial for aquatic plants to thrive in their environment. So, in summary, parenchyma tissues are versatile and fundamental to a plant's structure, support, storage, and even photosynthesis, depending on their specific type. Cells of collenchyma are live, which means they remain active throughout the life of the plant. The primary functions of collenchyma tissues are quite interesting. First, they provide mechanical support to the plant, helping it stay upright and sturdy. These cells are oval and elongated in shape, and they are tightly packed together with no spaces in between, which gives the tissue strength. Another important role of collenchyma is that it adds flexibility to the plant. This flexibility allows plants to bend without breaking, especially in windy conditions or when they grow. You can think of collenchyma as the plant's natural shock absorber. You'll typically find these cells just below the epidermis in leaves and stems. This strategic placement helps support the outer layers while still allowing for some movement and flexibility. Overall, collenchyma tissues are vital for maintaining the structure while allowing the plant to adapt to its environment. Now let's take a closer look at sclerenchyma, a type of simple plant tissue. The cells of sclerenchyma are actually dead, which might seem a bit unusual at first, but it's crucial for their function. You'll find sclerenchyma cells surrounding vascular bundles and veins in leaves, providing a protective and supportive covering. They're also present in the hard shells of seeds and nuts, offering them durability. The key functions of sclerenchyma include making parts of the plant very hard and stiff. For example, if you look at a coconut husk, you'll see sclerenchyma tissues at work, giving it that tough, fibrous quality. They also provide mechanical strength, helping the plant resist various stresses. What's really interesting is that the cell walls in sclerenchyma are made of lignin, a complex polymer that makes these cells incredibly hard and rigid. This lignin-based structure is what enables sclerenchyma to support the plant's framework effectively. So overall, sclerenchyma plays a vital role in maintaining the plant's structural integrity, ensuring it remains upright and sturdy. Let's take a closer look at the comparison between parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Starting with parenchyma, these tissues are responsible for key functions like photosynthesis, food storage, gaseous exchange, and even helping plants float. They are made up of living cells with cell walls primarily composed of cellulose. You'll notice that parenchyma cells have large spaces between them, known as intercellular spaces, which facilitate functions like gas exchange. Additionally, their cell walls are thin and surround each cell individually. You'll find parenchyma mainly in leaves and newly formed branches, supporting vital processes. Moving on to collenchyma, these tissues provide flexibility, allowing plants to bend without breaking. They are also made of living cells with cell walls that contain both cellulose and pectin, which contribute to their flexible nature. An important feature is that collenchyma cells have no intercellular spaces between them, and their cell walls are irregularly thickened at the corners, giving them a broad and uneven appearance. They are typically present in leaves and stems, helping the plant maintain its shape while remaining flexible. Finally, sclerenchyma tissues are responsible for giving plants their hardness and rigidity. These are composed of dead cells with thick walls made of lignin, which makes them very sturdy. The cells are elongated and have thick walls, and unlike the other two, they lack intercellular spaces altogether. You'll find sclerenchyma in stems, veins of leaves, and the coverings of nuts and seeds, providing structural support and protection. In summary, these three types of tissues work together to support different functions: parenchyma for metabolic activities, collenchyma for flexibility, and sclerenchyma for strength. Each has unique features that enable the plant to thrive in its environment. Protective tissues play a crucial role in safeguarding the plant body by forming an outer layer. There are two main types of these tissues that we need to understand: epidermis and cork. Let's start with the epidermis. This tissue covers the entire surface of the plant, acting as a protective shield against injuries, germs, and water loss. The cells in the epidermis form a continuous layer without any intercellular spaces, which helps maintain that protective barrier. You'll also notice tiny openings on the epidermis called stomata. These are small pores found on the leaf surface and the soft parts of stems. Their main function is to facilitate gas exchange and transpiration, which is how plants lose water. Each stomata is surrounded by two guard cells that regulate whether the stomata are open or closed, depending on the plant's needs. In desert plants, the epidermis and the cutin layer, which is a waterproof waxy substance secreted by the epidermis, are thicker. This adaptation helps reduce water loss through transpiration, which is essential for survival in dry environments. Now, moving on to cork. Cork tissue consists of dead cells that lack intercellular spaces, making them quite dense. You typically find cork forming the outer layer of old tree trunks. The walls of cork cells contain suberin, a chemical that makes them impervious to gases and water, providing an effective barrier. Cork also protects the plant from injuries and germs, just like the epidermis does. Additionally, because cork is lightweight, it's used to make various products such as bottle stoppers and shuttle corks. Overall, these protective tissues are vital for the plant's survival, helping it resist environmental stresses and prevent water loss, which ties directly into the broader theme of how plants adapt to their environment. Now, let's talk about complex tissues. These are groups of different types of cells that work together to perform a common task. Instead of just one cell type, complex tissues are made up of multiple cell types collaborating to carry out specific functions. There are two main types of complex tissues in plants: xylem and phloem. Xylem is responsible for transporting water from the roots up through the plant, while phloem carries nutrients and sugars produced in the leaves to other parts of the plant. Understanding these tissues is key because they illustrate how plants efficiently distribute essential resources, supporting the overall theme of plant structure and function. Let's take a closer look at xylem, which is the tissue responsible for transporting water and nutrients from the roots up to the rest of the plant. It's quite fascinating because it involves different types of cells working together. First, we have tracheids, which are long, elongated cells with tapered ends. An interesting fact is that tracheids are dead cells, and they transport water through tiny pits that allow water to pass from one cell to another. These pits are crucial because they facilitate water movement even though the cells themselves are dead. Next, there are vessels, which you can think of as pipe-like structures. Like tracheids, vessels are also dead and have thick cell walls that are lignified, meaning they're reinforced with lignin to provide strength. Notice that in vessels, the upper and lower portions of the cell wall are missing, forming continuous tubes that make water conduction more efficient. Then we have xylem parenchyma, which are living cells. These cells are vital for storing food and nutrients, acting as the plant's storage units. Their living nature allows them to participate in metabolic activities, supporting the overall health of the plant. Finally, xylem also includes sclerenchyma fibers, which are dead cells that provide mechanical support. They help maintain the plant's structure and rigidity, especially as the plant grows taller and faces various stresses. So, in summary, xylem is a complex tissue composed of these 4 cell types, each playing a specific role, whether it's water transport, storage, or support, all working together to keep the plant healthy and functional. Let's take a closer look at the phloem. This tissue plays a crucial role in transporting food, specifically the products of photosynthesis, from the leaves where they are made to other parts of the plant. It's like the plant's food delivery system. The phloem is made up of 4 different types of cells, each with a specific function. First, we have the sieve cells, which are elongated and have thin cell walls. These cells are unique because they contain cytoplasm but lack a nucleus and other organelles, making them specialized for transporting food efficiently. They are responsible for moving nutrients and sugars around the plant. Next, there are the companion cells. These cells are closely associated with the sieve cells and have a full set of organelles, including a nucleus and cytoplasm. They perform vital support functions, essentially helping the sieve cells do their job by managing their metabolic needs. We also have phloem fibers, which provide mechanical support to the plant due to their thick cell walls. Although they don't transport food, their role is equally important because they give structural strength. Last, the phloem parenchyma cells store food, acting as a reserve that can be mobilized when needed. It's important to note that all these cell types are living except for the fibers, which are dead and specialized for support. So, in summary, the phloem is a complex but highly efficient system that not only transports food, but also provides structural support, helping the plant grow and thrive. Let's take a closer look at the comparison between xylem and phloem. First, the composition. Xylem is made of dead cells, while phloem consists of living cells. This difference is crucial because it affects how each tissue functions. Next, considering the cell wall thickness, xylem has thick walls, which provide strength and support, whereas phloem has thinner walls, allowing for more flexibility. The material of these walls also varies. Xylem walls are lignin, which is very rigid, giving structural support, while phloem walls are made of cellulose, which is more flexible. When it comes to permeability, xylem is impermeable, meaning water can't pass through its walls easily, and this helps in the upward transport of water. Phloem, on the other hand, is permeable, facilitating the movement of food or nutrients. Looking at the cytoplasm, xylem has no cytoplasm present in its cells, as they are dead, whereas phloem has cytoplasm lining the cells, which supports the transport of organic substances. In terms of what they transport, xylem carries water and minerals from the roots to the leaves, essential for photosynthesis and plant health. Phloem transports food, mainly sugars, from the leaves to growing parts and storage organs. Regarding the direction of flow, xylem moves water upwards, driven by processes like transpiration, while phloem can move food both up and down as needed, depending on the plant's requirements. Finally, both tissues also have additional structures. Xylem contains fibers, which add strength, and phloem includes companion cells that assist in maintaining the function and health of the phloem tissue. So, in summary, these 2 tissues work together seamlessly to support the plant's transport system, each specialized for their specific roles in water, minerals, and food movement. Let's now talk about animal tissues. These tissues are essential components of our bodies and other animals, forming the basis of our organs and systems. We can classify animal tissues into 4 main types: epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous tissues. Each type has unique structures and functions that contribute to the overall functioning of the body. For example, epithelial tissue covers surfaces and lines cavities, providing protection and facilitating absorption. Connective tissue supports and binds other tissues and organs, with examples like blood, cartilage, and bones. Muscular tissue enables movement through contraction, which is vital for activities like walking, digestion, and circulation. Nervous tissue, on the other hand, is responsible for transmitting signals, coordinating actions, and processing information. Understanding these tissues helps us appreciate how complex and well-organized our bodies are, and how each tissue plays a critical role in maintaining health and functionality. This ties back to the overall theme of how biological structures work together to sustain life. Let's talk about animal tissues. These tissues are classified into 4 main types based on the functions they perform. First, we have epithelial tissues, which line the surfaces and cavities of organs, providing protection and involved in absorption and secretion. Next are muscular tissues, responsible for movement, whether it's voluntary like walking or involuntary like heartbeat. Then we have connective tissues, which support and connect different parts of the body, like blood, cartilage, and bones. And finally, nervous tissues, which are crucial for transmitting signals throughout the body, enabling communication between different parts. All these tissues are living, meaning they grow and develop uniformly across the body. Because animals are highly mobile, these tissues need more energy and maintenance to keep the body functioning smoothly. This high level of development in organs and organ systems is what allows animals to perform complex activities and adapt to their environments. Specifically, nervous tissues play a key role in controlling and coordinating body activities by transmitting messages rapidly. Understanding these tissues helps us see how the entire body functions as a coordinated system, supporting the overall theme of how complex and efficient animal bodies are. All right, let's talk about epithelial tissue. These tissues are essentially the body's protective shield. They cover many of our organs and line the cavities inside the body, serving as a vital barrier. Their primary role is to protect underlying tissues from damage, pathogens, and dehydration. You can think of them as a tightly packed, protective layer that keeps everything safe and functioning properly. Understanding epithelial tissue is key because it connects to many other tissue types and plays a crucial role in maintaining overall health and homeostasis. So, in our exploration of human tissues, epithelial tissue stands out as the first line of defense, guarding our internal environment from the outside world. Now, let's take a look at where epithelial tissues are found in the human body. You'll notice they line many vital structures. For example, they line our blood vessels, forming a smooth surface that helps regulate what passes in and out of our bloodstream. They also line the inside of our mouths, creating a protective barrier while allowing for sensation and some absorption. In the kidneys, epithelial tissues make up the kidney tubules, which are essential for filtering blood and forming urine. Our skin, the largest organ we have, is also composed largely of epithelial tissue, providing a tough, protective outer layer. And finally, in our lungs, epithelial cells line the alveoli, which are tiny air sacs where gas exchange occurs. Recognizing these diverse locations highlights how epithelial tissue is fundamental for protection, absorption, filtration, and exchange processes throughout the body. It really ties into our overall theme of understanding how tissue structure supports function in different organs. Let's take a closer look at epithelial tissue. The main role of these tissues is to act as a barrier, effectively separating different organs and systems within the body. This separation is essential for maintaining proper function and preventing unwanted interactions. One important point to remember is that there is no space between the cells of epithelial tissue. They are tightly packed together, which helps form a continuous, protective layer. Despite this close arrangement, these cells are permeable. That means they can allow materials to pass through, enabling exchange between different parts of the body, as well as between the body and the external environment. Additionally, epithelial tissues are kept separate from the underlying tissues by a thin membrane. This membrane acts as a sort of boundary, providing support while still allowing for communication and exchange. Connecting all these points, it's clear that epithelial tissue plays a vital role not only in protection and separation, but also in facilitating the exchange of substances, making it fundamental to our overall health and functioning. Now, let's take a look at the different types of epithelial tissues. These tissues are incredibly diverse and specialized, each serving unique functions in our body. Throughout this presentation, we've seen how epithelial tissues form protective barriers, facilitate absorption, and enable secretion. Understanding the various types helps us appreciate how the body's surfaces and linings are perfectly adapted to their roles. From simple to stratified and squamous to columnar, each type has a specific structure that suits its function. Recognizing these differences is key to understanding both normal physiology and how diseases can affect these tissues. This diversity truly highlights the remarkable adaptability of epithelial tissues within our overall body system.